Boris Johnson's admission that he was at a party on the 20th of May, but thought it was a work event, has prompted ridicule across the country. However, for many people, the Prime Minister's rule breaking is anything but funny. That's because while the PM was bending the rules to attend a garden party, they were following the rules and missing out on more fundamental, even heartbreaking moments in life. Jim Shannon is an MP for the DUP. In the House of Commons on Tuesday, he asked this question to a government minister.
In Northern Ireland, we reached a milestone of 3,000 deaths due to COVID just last week. 3,000 people who followed the rules and grieved today. So will the paymaster, including my mother-in-law who died alone, will the Paymaster General confirm that there will be a full and complete disclosure to enable the police service to ascertain it all was done decently and within the regulations at the date and at that time? I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker.
That powerful testimony was echoed across the country by people who lost loved ones to COVID-19. They include Lisa Wilkie, whose brother was in intensive care on the date of the Downing Street party. He died shortly afterwards.
Instead of holding my mum, I was holding my phone, filming my brother dying. People sacrificed so much. People died sticking to the rules, and they broke those rules to have a bottle of wine.
On Tuesday, the BBC also spoke to a woman who lost her mother to COVID. Her mother's funeral was held on the day of the Downing Street party, and due to lockdown rules, she was unable to attend.
We went there. There was just a coffin.
So what do you feel about the Prime Minister having a party that
I'll be honest
day?
with you, I really hate him. I'm sorry to say it, because my mum wouldn't want me to say that. But he's just a disgrace. I mean, he's not said sorry. He doesn't acknowledge what he's done. He lies and lies and lies. And it's just, it's a disgrace.
Both of those testimonies were played on the BBC News at 10. So that's the most watched news broadcast in the country. 5 million people tune in. And we all heard that woman who tragically lost her mother say from the bottom of her heart, I hate him. About Boris Johnson, I hate him.
I cannot imagine what it must have been like to lose a loved one, especially during that time, and to know that the government was behaving in this way. And I want to take this opportunity, actually, because I think it's important that all of us who did abide by the rules, all of us who, despite how difficult it was, stuck by our principles, and who are maybe feeling now, why did I bother? But watching the footage that you just aired really reminds me that, and it's important to remember that we did the right thing. We shouldn't regret the fact that we did abide by the rules, even if this government was making essentially a mug out of us. We saved lives by respecting the scientific advice, even when the government didn't have the dignity to do it. We are better than our government. And it's important to remember that, especially when morale is so low, because we feel, as I said, like we've been taken for a mug. And, this is an incredibly damaging footage. And what boils my blood on top of it is to think about when you look at the email invitation and it said, given the incredibly busy period we've had, we thought it'd be nice to make the most out of the sunshine. And I just think when I read that, I not only think about the people who couldn't hold their loved ones after they were mourning the loss of people that in their family or their friends, but I thought about the NHS workers, the workers who had to endure, talk about working hard, talk about a busy period, who worked in, frankly, traumatizing working conditions because of this government's haphazard response to the pandemic, and who were told just this Christmas, oh yeah, the NHS is going to be under a lot of pressure during Christmas and January, but we're not going to put down any restrictions, even though Scotland, Ireland, etc. have. Many of those workers have had to isolate, especially during that earlier period before vaccines. They had to isolate from their families and their friends. Even after spending a day in an ICU ward, they'd have to come home and spend the whole night in their room so that they didn't infect their families. I'm sure that they would have loved to have blown off steam or spent time with their friends and loved ones in order to recover from what they were going through, but they didn't. And that's going to have long-term effects on so many of them. And, if they didn't deserve to socialize after a, quote, pretty busy period, then this lot sure as hell didn't. And so that sort of adds another layer of insult on top of what people who have lost loved ones and who grieved during that period. Now that we've found out what the government was doing with the trust and the responsibility that was put in them. It's disgusting.
The best defense they have is that they just didn't think about it. Because if they thought about it, if they thought about the implications of this and thought, yes, we know that people are missing funerals and we know that people are not visiting their loved ones, but we're still going to have a party anyway. I mean, that would be almost, sociopathic. So either it's that, or they just weren't really thinking at that point in time about the people who weren't able to see their dying loved ones. They weren't really thinking about the mental health problems that so many people were having because they weren't able to see their friends for 2 months. It just wasn't on their minds. And these weren't people with jobs that were irrelevant to that. This wasn't fine. If that's not on your mind and you work in sports journalism or you work in a food factory, you don't need to be worrying about everyone in the country who is unable to see their dying relative. You don't need to have at the forefront of your mind the people who are suffering from mental health problems because they've been unable to leave their house. If, I contend, you work in Downing Street, you are making these rules, your entire job is to supposedly look after the country, then those things should be at the forefront of your mind. And either they weren't at the height of the first lockdown, the height of the crisis, they weren't thinking about what other people were going through in the country, or they thought about it and had a party anyway, which is, so inexcusable, it's almost difficult to imagine.